Take two, round two, Banter with the Brothers. We are back alongside Joe, Jevy, and Carl. We are joined by the one, the only, Amber Romero. Amber, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Glad to have you favored.
Glad you could rejoin us on this this episode of Banter with the Brothers. Before we were talking about how you've been handling this quarantine time. So if you would like to refill us in.
No problem. Technical difficulties happen. It's okay. So basically quarantine, I think we were talking about it being a blessing in disguise, honestly. I was always on the go. I'm still pretty much on the go, just not as much. So I've just been doing a lot of work from home, working on my kitchen table, strategizing kind of plans for the future, a lot of reflecting on the work I've done thus far, and just figuring out where to go next.
So for those who don't know, what do you do?
So I do a bunch of things. I think the one thing that takes up the most of my time is artist management. So I am involved with an independent record label called Gold Members Music Group. And I primarily manage one of their artists, YPQ. And I also assist the management team for another artist called DigiFinesse.
So what got you started in the music business? What made you want to become a manager?
So it actually started by accident. So sorry about that, guys.
Oh, good.
You good?
My phone is literally dying. Hey, where'd you guys go? All right.
Yeah.
So it started by accident. So I didn't really start managing. What happened is, after graduation, I started a consulting company called Now Peachy. The CEO of Gold Members Music Group reached out to me and basically hired me on as a consultant for the company. So I helped them with like a plethora of things like accounting, marketing, legal, literally everything. So I kind of helped the company in its initial stages get started. And then just through that, it was a group of my friends. Just through that, I ended up building a really good relationship with everyone on the team, and Q and I built a really good relationship, and I just kind of got thrown into the management aspect of it. So it was never really planned. I had no interest in the music industry. I'm sure this will come up later. I literally know nothing about the music industry. Like, I learned everything as I was on the go. Like, literally everything. Rap culture was like foreign to me, and I just kind of ended up there.
What were the early challenges of getting thrown into that world?
It's kind of like a challenge still, but it's like a blessing, my team kind of says. Because I like don't know anything about the music industry, like I rarely even listen to music. Like, we were being in LA for all of our trips, and we were always around like celebrities, and like I had no idea who anybody was. Like, everybody was like a regular person to me. So like people on my team would be like, Amber, like Little John is right there, whatever. And I'm like, who's Little John? Like, I don't even know who that is.
She's like, what?
Yeah, like I'm like not amused. Like, Q will probably tell you the funniest story. Like, one time, one of our entertainment companies hosted a party in Miami, and Little John was in our section with us. And he had Q's bottle of 1942, and Q jokingly goes like, Amber, get my bottle back from him. I'm like, okay. And like, I like said, like, can I get my bottle back? And everybody like looked at me like, are you crazy? Like, did you just ask Little John for a bottle? I'm like, yeah, like, he's a regular person. Like, I'm just totally
starstruck then.
Yeah, like, I'm totally not starstruck. So that's definitely a little bit of a challenge, just because I don't know who some of the big players are, but it works to my advantage because it allows me to like focus on like all of the minor details. Like, I'm really, really good on the legal side of things. I'm really good at reading artist contracts. I'm really good at getting music, like getting a good marketing strategy and all that fun stuff. So I'm not focused on the celebrities and all that aspect of it.
Right.
So you don't listen to that much music?
Not really. Like, I listen to Drake. Like, I'm a huge Drake fan.
There we go.
Yeah, like I'm a huge J. Cole fan, but like I'm like, I don't keep, it's not that I don't listen to that much music, I just don't keep up. Like, I couldn't tell you like who just dropped what, or like, I just never really cared.
Oh, fair enough. That's interesting, because being in the music business, so you get thrown into the music business, you're not necessarily a like a heavy music fan.
Mm-hmm.
How did the relationship with Q build? How did that build over time?
You said with Q?
Yeah.
So I think the advantage that I had, what everybody really realized early on was, like, even though I was being thrown into something, like, I could always figure it out. Like, everyone on my team can vouch for that. Like I may not know nothing about the subject, like, but everyone kind of just realized, like, she doesn't need to know anything about it. She will get the job done. And Q realized that early on. So I think our relationship just kind of built from all of our trips. Like, he just realized, like, oh, like, Amber's the one who just gets shit done. Like, there's my Instagram name came from Q. Like, he started this whole video Snapchat series called Hey Amber, because we would literally be on all these trips, and like every 5 minutes you would hear Q saying, hey Amber, like, what time are we going here? Like, hey Amber, like, when's my next studio session? Hey Amber, like, what's like XYZ? Like, there was always a question for me, and I always had the answer for them. Like, and that went for everybody on my team. So the relationship with Q just kind of built like by accident. Like, it was just like, I was just this like very resourceful person on their team who may not know much about the industry, but just always figured it out for them and always got shit done for them.
Yeah, I think that definitely works in your advantage, you know. Only when you, I guess, I don't know if you've been around people that like take their music very seriously, they might feel offended that you don't know nothing about them or their music. But if I'm an artist and I have a manager that's just like on the job, less shit I gotta worry about. You know what I'm saying? Like legal stuff, because people get so confused and starstruck by this person, that person, but you're focused on your job. So which I commend you for. And I think that's a good thing, even though you don't listen to that much music.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever been offended that you didn't know who they were?
I don't think so. I mean, and if they were like someone I've never been in a situation. Yeah, if they were, I don't care. But I've also never been in a situation where it's like, it's me by myself and this person I don't know. It's usually like me and my team. And like, I'll give a huge shout out to Ivan Guadalupe from IAG Management. He's also like one of my partners in this. He usually does a really good job of prepping me in those situations. Like, he'll like whisper in my ear, like, that's so-and-so from so-and-so, like, just so you know. So no one's really been offended. No, most of the time people don't even notice because what's up?
Who is the most famous person? Yeah, who do you think is the most famous person that you didn't know?
I wouldn't know. Maybe Jermaine Dupri, I guess.
I mean, that's pretty famous. That's pretty famous.
Yeah, he is pretty famous.
The only reason I say that is because thinking about it, that's probably the person that everybody was like, oh shit, Jermaine Dupri is here, and I'm just like, who's that? Like,
no, I understand.
Yeah.
You didn't grow up on like Bow Wow, any of that?
Not really. Like, I know who Bow Wow is.
Was it one of those girls running down Lil Bow Wow?
No, not really. Like, nah.
Lil Bow Wow used to be that guy, huh?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know where my mind was, but it just wasn't me. I do remember, like, my sister was into music a lot. I do remember, like, her dragging me to a B2K concert. Like, she, like, got my jeans, like, spray painted B2K on it and stuff, but, like,
that's a throwback.
Really, you were just there just because.
Literally, I was literally just there just because.
Yes. So, okay, Joe.
No, I was going to say, no, you mentioned legal before, and we were talking earlier about you interning at the CIA and stuff. So if you want to talk about that experience, because that's wild to me.
Yeah, what do you guys want to know?
Just like how,
what can you tell us?
What can you tell us?
Well, no, I mean, what do you guys want to know about that experience?
Was it a fun experience?
Apply for that job.
Yeah, how did you get started? That's a good
question. I heard 3 different things. Tell me again.
You go first, go.
How did you apply for that job?
So, you just apply like a normal person applies for a job, you just go on the CIA website and hit apply. It was pretty easy to apply. The process takes really long though. So I applied my freshman year of college and I didn't start working there until my senior year of college. It's a really deep process to, get in, get approved. Your background check takes a long time. My background check took a lot longer because I have a lot of family. Well, all my family is overseas. So, it was definitely a difficult process, but normal application.
Where's all your family?
The Dominican Republic.
Okay. DR repping.
Yeah,
Shout out to all my Dominicans.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, shout out to them.
So what made you want to apply in the first place at the CIA? Like not many freshmen have like the frame of mind to be like, you know what, I'm going to work at the CIA.
So I was at a convention. It's called the Association for Latino Professionals for America. It was an organization I was a part of in college, and one of their employees did a presentation there on like being a psychologist at the CIA. And I was just intrigued. And I also like have just always had this thing about like doing what everybody else wasn't doing. Like I've just always just wanted to go above and beyond. I just always had this crazy mindset of like thinking 3 times bigger than what everybody else was doing. So I was like, let me just apply. It was literally like on the whim, like, let me just see if I could do it. And kind of just came through. I was actually shocked myself when it came through. I was like, oh shit, like, I'm about to go work for the CIA. It was kind of crazy.
What was that first day like when you walked in the first day? Were you nervous, excited, anxious?
Extremely anxious, like extremely, extremely anxious. Like I had to wake up at like 4 a.m. It was like, and like everything you see in the movies about it, like, is not true at all. So like,
I've been watching Blacklist for a little while, so that's what I'm picturing.
Facts, bro.
What'd you say?
I've been watching the show called Blacklist, so it's
exactly. So I was a huge. Okay, so what really made me apply for the CIA was Blacklist and
that's crazy.
And Quantico. Like I was obsessed with those shows. So first few days, I'm thinking like it's gonna be just like Blacklist. I'm thinking I'm going into this black box with James Reddington. Like I'm thinking all this, It wasn't like that at all. Okay. It definitely had a lot of secretive components to it. My life was like really different at that time. Like it was actually kind of hard working there at such a young age because like your whole life is a secret. Like you can't tell anybody you're working there. Like now I don't work there anymore, so whatever. It's public knowledge, But at the time you can't tell anybody you're working there. You have to like take different routes to work and stuff so that you're not being followed. Like it was difficult, but it was a cool experience.
What was the biggest takeaway from that?
I learned to appreciate. Gotta
be careful here, guys. You can't touch straight.
Yeah, I know.
Please don't have the feds knocking down my door.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I gotta be selective with my wording. I think I learned to appreciate the process, like, and I don't mean government process or any of that. Like, I mean, it was one of those like anticipation things. Like, it literally took me 4 years to get to that first day. Like, so I just learned to appreciate like everything happens when it will happen. And sometimes once you get there, it's not everything you expect it to be. Like I waited for 4 years for like this super exciting moment. Like, and working there was great. You're like in an extremely powerful position. You're doing like really, really interesting work, but it just wasn't for me. I just didn't have the freedom that I wanted. I wasn't living the life that I wanted. Like what I'm doing now is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
How did that experience help you like today?
I think that and that experience and a lot of my other jobs throughout college, a lot of my internships through college helped me with my like attention to detail. Like I think like everyone on my team can probably vouch for this. Like if an artist has a 40-page contract, like I have read every single word and I understand every word in that contract. Like that's one thing I pride myself in is like being extremely, extremely detail oriented. And I think I think those were probably some of the qualities I had prior to working for the agency. But working for the agency, you learn the importance of that. Like, you can't make small mistakes, like, at all in documents. Like, you can, like, you're messing with something like that's a much bigger power than you, you know. So the attention to detail definitely was instilled to me probably in that job and then after.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I know there was some family members like, what? Were you able to tell them?
You know, I kind of just had to say different stuff, but now for the most part, they know. So you're not allowed to talk about it with people who don't live in the U.S. So, you know, for me, that was most of my family. So it was a little awkward, you know. They just know I'm working for the government. It was weird.
Speaking, so, go ahead, Carl.
You got it.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask, going back to the contract, since you're in the music business, are 360 contracts still a thing? Are people still getting 360 out here? I need to know that.
Yes, they're 100% getting 360'd, and they're getting 360'd, and they're not calling them 360 contracts. They're calling them exclusive recording contracts. They're getting 360'd. They're 100% real. And
artists out there, I'm trying to help y'all. Don't sign them.
Yeah.
Giving y'all
but you
free
know
game.
what? You know, I will say, wait. I will say. I think 360 contracts have a really negative notation. I think there's a lot of bad 360 contracts. I think there's also a lot of really good 360 contracts. Like, at the end of the day, if you're a new artist, at the end of the day, a 360 contract is just, they get a cut of everything you do. But if you're a brand new artist with no name, no following, and this company builds you up, they're entitled to take a cut of everything you do. If you sell a shirt, they're entitled to their 15, 20%. So I think artists just have to do a better job of making sure they get a really good legal team, or sit down and read their contract with yourself, or get a great manager like myself, not trying to help myself up, but who goes through and reads the percentages that the company is taking. That's really what the important part is. Like, if they're only going to take 10% of all your merchandise, 10% of all your touring, fuck it. Why not get in a 360 deal if they're going to fund your contract, if they're going to do right by you and help build your name? And contracts don't need to be that long. A lot of people get into these long, super long 5-year, 10-year contracts. You don't need to do any of that. Just do a 1-album deal with them and be done.
So it's more about the details, as you were speaking about earlier. It's all about looking into it, not just the title of the contract. Gotcha.
Yes.
Right. I think what some artists could take away from what you were saying is maybe go into the situation with some leverage, so there's less for them to take from. You know, maybe you have a good following. Maybe you've been, you know, you copyrighted your brand or whatever the case may be. So it's less work for a label to do for you. So, you know, say you got 50% of what you want already, so then got to worry about your marketing so much or your branding or whatever. It's just your distribution of your music or something else. So I think this is information people really need, though. So I thank you for that, for sure.
Yeah, and I do want to say too, like, what I really recommend independent artists do is get into distribution deals, not record deals. Because at the end of the day, like, if you leverage your personal network well enough, you can get recording time, you can get studio time, you can get your videos done, you can get clothes. Like, if people really leverage their network well, all the things that labels are paying for, they can get. Like, the chains, all that, like, they can get on their own. But the distribution aspect of it is a little harder to get. Like, that's not something that you can per se leverage your personal network for. So that's definitely the route independent artists should be taking. But, you know, that's just my plug.
We had Q on here the other day. He was talking about social media and the importance of social media. And he was saying that, you know, sometimes you got to remind him, like, get on social media, engage with people, stuff like that. What do you think the importance of it is for up-and-coming artists?
So it's funny. So Q was actually here when he was doing the interview, and I laughed when I heard him say that, because Q taught me the importance of social media. I literally hate social media so much. I feel like it's like the most invasive thing ever, but I've gotten really good at it. I've gotten like good at uploading and engaging and all that fun stuff. So I think the importance of it is really just staying relevant. Like, when Q was in jail, I had a really hard time because I was managing his page. I had a really hard time of like making sure he was still relevant. Like, the first week he was in jail, his profile views were like close to 10,000. And like, obviously, as he was in jail, there was less content to post, less engagement. I saw those numbers going down so quick, and he would call me, and I'm like, okay, like, what should I post? What do you want me to post? Like, how do you want me to engage with these people? So it's like, I think the importance of it is being genuine. That's why I didn't like running his page, and that's why I really recommend artists run their own page. Like, don't pay someone else to do it. Like, it should be you. It should be your contact. It should be, like, for example, Q on YouTube. When I first started uploading his videos and releasing his music, I would be the one that would respond to the comments, and I'm like, this doesn't even sound like a Q response. Like, I'm like, thanks, bro. Like, thanks for the support. Like, Q doesn't talk like that, you know?
I can say none of that.
I know.
So that was my biggest thing, is like staying genuine. Like, so I had Q go in and like write however it is that he writes in his language or whatever, and it made more sense. Like, and it increased engagement. Like, people noticed it was actually Q responding. So it's definitely like the staying relevant part is important, and the being genuine, I think, is the most important part of the social media aspect.
So when you say that artists should run their own page, I think it was last week, Meek Mill, when 6ix9ine got out, he tweeted something, and then he like later tweeted out like, my management needs to take my password. You wouldn't recommend in that situation, like, his manager just taking it so that way he doesn't? Because, I mean, he's gotten in trouble for Twitter before. Not going to really
elaborate on that.
Yeah.
I got you.
I don't know. I think in the, like, if we're talking about the president, yeah, somebody needs to manage his page. Like,
that's a fact.
Like, Trump should not manage his own Twitter, you know? But
imagine if he wasn't the one tweeting.
He got some
I don't think anyone believed that.
No, I'm just saying, I don't. I'm just saying.
Nah, baby.
Yeah, I really think artists should manage their own stuff. And I think the way it should be handled, like in a situation like that, is you should have whoever your publicist is should be able to guide you in terms of like the things you should and shouldn't post. But it should never be someone else writing for you. Like, it should be your own voice, your own content, like how you want to portray it. And like, even with Q, like, I definitely guide him in the right direction. I'm like, all right, you need to post this cover. You need to post this cover art. You need to promote this video. You need to XYZ. But he'll write his own caption. He'll take the own clip of the video that he wants. Like, he turns it into his own so that it seems genuine. Like, I feel like people on social media can very easily tell when it's like not you posting. Right. And I noticed that myself just in his engagement when I posted a picture versus when he posted a picture. I'm like, and it'll be something simple, like the caption won't have an emoji in it or won't have a specific hashtag, and like all his friends know that like it wasn't him that posted it, so they won't like the picture. Like, little shit like that we don't think about is like very easy for someone else to spot.
Definitely. You just mentioned the previous president. Before the interview, we were talking. You have met the previous president, one Barack Obama. What was that like?
That I think it probably influenced me to like who the person is that's speaking to you guys now. So like, I was 15 years old when I met him. It was 2 days before my 16th birthday. And I got invited to go speak to him about a business I had started in high school. It was like an online store. And for me, it was just a defining moment in my life. Like, prior to that, I was like basically failing out of high school. Like, I was like terrible kid, like never went to school. I was like on attendance probation. Like, I was just like not going in the right direction at all. And like, that moment was like, oh shit, like you can really do big things. Like, you just really got to sit down and focus. Like, and like everything changed. Like, any of my high school teachers, my like assistant principal, like I'm still close friends with my assistant principal now because she says like, yo, you totally changed. So it was just like a defining moment for me. It was just kind of my like wake up call. It was really cool though. It's a pretty cool guy.
I was gonna say, like, how nervous were you to like speak to him?
I wasn't nervous. It was like, everyone asked me that. Like, I know this sounds weird, but like it felt like that's exactly where I was supposed to be. Like, it didn't feel foreign at all. It was like,
because it was.
What do you mean?
It was where you were supposed to be. Like,
exactly.
Believe it. Like, that's where you never end up where you're not supposed to be.
Yeah, like it was like so crazy. He had actually came to Bridgeport the week before. So like we're like talking, and I'm like, yeah, like you were in Bridgeport. He's like, where are you from? I'm like, Bridgeport. He's like, yeah, like I was just there. I was like, oh yeah, like you were just here, like you know that. Like it was just, I don't know. It was weird, and I think we connected a lot because like we're both minorities. Like it was like cool. Like I got this brown girl sitting in front of me. Like I'm a brown president talking to a brown little girl from Bridgeport. Like that was like crazy to me.
That's a blessing, honestly. I mean, I don't even really know what else to say about that. That's crazy. So you've met a president, you've worked for a Central Intelligence Agency, and you said that, you know, like all these, and you've had a bunch of other jobs. Like we did our homework. But I know that being a woman in business comes with its own set of challenges. So, you know, would you like to speak on them first of all, and just like the first moment you kind of noticed like the rules aren't the same for me?
So it's interesting you ask that. I think I noticed the rules weren't the same for me early on, but it wasn't always from a female perspective. So I left Bridgeport when I was 16 or 17. I went to Bentley University in Boston. It's a predominantly white institution, and it's actually predominantly male. Our ratio is like 60-40. But when I was there, like the female part of it, like was never like it was never like my forefront issue. The biggest issue was that I was a minority. It was like the rules aren't the same for me because I'm Spanish. And I think it wasn't towards the end of my college career and really when I got into the music industry that I started realizing the rules really aren't the same for me as a female. So it's like I really realized in the music industry, and I think it's because in the music industry everyone that I'm around is the same, is like Black or Hispanic. So I'm like, okay, we're all, you get what I'm saying? Like we're all the same color, cool. But like now I'm the only female in the room. So I think that's really when I started realizing the rules are different for me because I'm a female.
Oh, okay. Do you ever get discouraged because of that?
I definitely do. But I think what I found kind of through it all is I have really good allies. Like my whole team on Gold members, like everybody's a male. All the artists are male. The owners are male. Like my two other business partners, Kenny and Ivan, shout out to them. They're like my biggest allies. They help me not get discouraged. Like they like, whenever they realize that a situation is a little funky because I'm a female or because XYZ, like they're the first ones to step in and kind of like defend me. And I think like a lot of girls who are like into this whole like women empowerment thing like are like against that. I'm a huge advocate for it. Like we need allies in this, like as females, like in any situation, like you always need an ally, and they're my biggest allies for it. And who better to like speak up for me in a male dominated industry than a male, you know?
Right. It's taken more seriously from that perspective as well.
Yeah.
I got a question. Are there any benefits of being a female in the industry?
So I use it to my advantage extremely. Yeah. So what I would notice would happen like early on is like, for example, we'd walk into a room and I'd walk in with like my 3 or 4 business partners or my whole team. It's like 5 of us. Everybody's a male. I'm the only female. Walk into an all male room. And I would be like deemed the assistant. Like, and I would always just laugh. It would just be like hilarious to me. And I would just like, I would just let things play out how they would play out. The way I would use it to my advantage is like quickly people realize that like on a specific subject, on a specific topic, like I was the most knowledgeable on it. I was the one who had all the answers. So I just played that to my advantage. Like you can refer to me however you want. You can call me the assistant, whatever the case may be. If that's what it is that you feel, that's perfectly fine. But you're gonna need something done. You're gonna either need to be paid, and I'm the one who has to cut your check. You're gonna need something figured out, and I'm the one who has to handle that for you. So that's usually when people start coming correct. And then in like networking aspect, what I found would happen a lot was like guys would just try to hit on me. They didn't realize that like I was also part of the business. They thought I was just like a girl that came with all the businessmen, you know? Right. So I would use that to my advantage because, you know, we're networking. Okay, so you guys want to connect on Instagram, whatever the case may be, cool, that's fine. But I use that to plant a seed for whatever future business endeavors. And a lot of the networks that we have now is because people felt more comfortable talking to me as the only female there versus going up to talk to all the other guys. And then from the female perspective too, I was able to connect with a lot of good females out in LA just because they see this group of guys, they're intimidated to go up and talk, but as soon as they see another female, they're like, hey, what's up? Like, what do you guys do? XYZ. So I was able to connect on both sides of it. So yeah, I use it to my advantage all the time. Definitely a benefit.
Right. So people are shooting shots at a double rim. Right. Business only. Can you hear that, Schiller? Business only, bro.
Oh my God.